She couldn't find a way to. She couldn't
travel there by myself. Who will help carry these words?
She couldn't find a way to be honest with herself. She couldn't find a way to be honest with herself. She was so ridiculous that she had to get some dick. It was just a form of that. I don't know what you want to call it for it was not a woman at all. She didn't have any control or composure for this. She couldn't evolve. She would say sorry to them for the saying and do it again. And touch with a high for the rose finds out that she wears a heart. Be sure there's the kind of man that she likes enough for the men of the kind that she thinks that she's a nightingale. For the calling of the name for the every rhyme, but maybe that's the kind of smile all the time. But enough for the sweet for the touches of the hyphen, but maybe the kind of place on the shores. It never had that for the name for the your, for the horror, for the this, for the maybe the kind for the worthy of the trust. Mine for the breast and nine for the soul, for the sun, for the she is the one for the you, or the one for the fine or not. If she is tough, not for you or rough, if this is rough for her or not, for that's sure if she can't sing for the teller, for the name of the Hebrew rhyme, and now the smile with her. I will find my life for the love, for the medicine, only the problem solver, but I can never rob her. The dignity for the discipline, only the passage, for the you can be like this and get your shovel off of the passages, and this will be the end for the never reaching story, for another mode, for the never ending story. I will find your trail, for then you can write that off, and this will be disgusting for the God that I will find. A cloud above it, this will be the proud. Say proud enough for the being featured, enough for the cloud. I rise into heaven and heaven. Look back, I was looking forward with just the back part of you. What do you mean? I didn't really want to know that part. I didn't think that you were gonna destroy this time or all those other times around the same pendulum. It was kind of surprising, but after a while, it was mesmerizing. Then it started killing me and putting me in cemetery. It wasn't for every place to find it this way. If this girl just may, I just may be buried underneath the concrete, or the dirt, never want to flirt with anybody. She don't really matter, never would want a penny for the skirt, but this would be the reason for you. You would never have to tell the truth and never want to lie to you. To lie down with the same plan for the day. Change clothes and maybe feel easy to flows and slows and that. This would mean hiding something in her hand to come back like she never had it in the first place. And first to the second to last, and last will never be first with the person never to be. Last that memory. I last thought about that worthless one. I knew her worth and it was inside of me. And no, she killed me without a gun, but I would know her for the psychology for the she for me. I have a plan of consequences. She thinks she has a plan, but this is never understanding that she only thinks with the one dimension of train of thought. Get right over with the beat and prayer. Get ran over by the train of thought.
But that's a dumb thought, of course.
She couldn't find a way to be honest with herself. She was so ridiculous that she had to get some dick. It was just a form of that. I don't know what you want to call it for it was not a woman at all. She didn't have any control or composure for this. She couldn't evolve. She would say sorry enough for the saying and do it again. The touch been high for the rose finds out that it wears a heart. Be sure there's a kind of man that she likes enough for the man of the kind that she thinks that she's a nightingale. For the calling of the name for the every rhyme, but maybe that's the kind of smile all the time. But enough for the sweet for the touches of the high food, but maybe the kind of food plays on the shores. And never had that for the name for the your, for the whore, for the different, and maybe the kind for the worthy of the trust. Mine for the breast and not for the so is the sun. For the she is the one for the you, or the one for the fight or not. If she is tough, not for you or rough, and this is a rush for her or not. But that's sure if she can't see.
Those sleepwalkers and them white wise dogs. Never was one who walked too far from mountains. Those sleepwalkers and them white. Those sleepwalkers and them white wise dogs. Never was one who walked too far from Mountains Creek, but that's the everlasting sleepwalker.
I will find your trail. You can write that down. This will be disgusting for the guys.
You see them speak without talking. You have them understanding the content, or they think they understand the content, but they're standing over it for the never. The understanding of what you can find, understanding for the standing under. For the I am not recommending you to be under. I am find that for the gathering, not for the whole, from the whole for the beating for the soul, for the ass above, for the ass below. This is the low for the beating for the knees, for the silence, for the info, for the rough, for the woman, for the padded daughter, for the walking into the sleep, for this to be the veil guarder, for the wounded finding you, destroy the building of your life, for the rooms and mine, but I will not kill you for the standing up before the fear of itself of me. I will have the echo for the fate of the life of you, but if the dead man, I'm the lost through the disability one the world, you can be the daughter for the one you spoke and not turn to terror about. I told you not to, I try to warn you around. But you wanna keep it doing, not for the western store, for the not for the consequences that what you wanna give others. Even who you called your brother, even who you called your husband, even who you call your father, children's children. Call your father, this is never happening. How your children call your father's father, call your children's children. Wait a minute, I am never listening. This is the bait of the I've been minute for the cock and you wanna vote. This is the winter now kill your throat. This is the matter for the answer gently. I can find a recognition. I can find a submission when I see one.
This will be the servant for the you will never have to tell the truth.
Someone that's friendly when I can feel
lie down with the same pen for the day. Change
someone that's present when I can reveal it. But these sleepwalkers and walking through the daylight, hermits, one lonely mountain, they're two live for the worshiping God. Maybe they never even know that place. Haste the face of the masking what you find that love and the feeling for the confirmed kill that grace and through the eternity for the salvation will lead you into eternity. Or he gave himself to you for eternity for the begotten, not for the never forgot about you for the love and one another for the listen, be the brother for the sad and the abundance for the grieving of what you brought for the ever the broken, the birth, the road, to find the bold, which was the time to take the soul for this to be the given to him and to the road. And I can never find it. Nothing on mine and only, but it must be divided. And not to be the cursed as a coward and not to fight. What else is left but the rights? The rights, this is what's left. For the widow, for the son, for the disobedient one, for the lonely house, and never to the village, for the never had a one of his own. Place to lay his hat down for the stare, for the fire, for only the job, for the staring at maybe there with the mother, for the terror, for the nut, for the gunner, for the shaking, for the recording, for the many needs and the men who come from those and with the silence and dolphin through the night. Who sat there by the fireside, spinning woven it is to be the one to cover over the terrible world, enough for the needs and the earth, for the widow spoken, for the weak upon the merciful eyes. When you realize for the power I am, for the man's weakness that you are, this is the falling for the snow, for the heavy clouds, for the blowing wind, for that you needed after the number. You made it for the suffer, for the knocking the doors. Wait for it, and I've been knocking too long. This is the repeater for the repeating my knuckles to the board, for the protecting there for the winter, for the this will be the glad for the body, for the merciful hands, this will be the knocking on door for the way, for the to the warm place, anger for the storm. This is for the slumber, this for the capture the sun, and the little boy spirit for the place of the bed, for the kiss of that, for the eyes, for the quivering your lip, and then went back to death and find the heat and what they find it raining. And containment enough of what you dream for. Oh, I dream of what you dreamt for. It would be spring after that winter, beautiful enough, and you can come near that soft and every intent for the heat of it and never stop and that for the brethren. You can find it whether you prayed again for the night for the davening. Verily I can say until you rain, mice and that for the rain for the mice, and this will wonder never nice, and this a rose and this a Mrs. Day for the company for the raven. This will prayed again for the never the doubt for the difference I tell you would never. You can call me a dog for the laughing and her to turn around and living me the foolish enough for the cat. It's been written beyond that. This was the safe, but this would be the hard to catch. Hard to catch the divine chase and chase your mouse and this mouse and whatever never the blouse and this prayer for the face of supplication for never the butt the bones. Never one to pass a cat, a wise dog, and then like walk in the fog, in a place where it was so simple to find a trace of anybody who had to never allergic for the simplicity of a pimple with the oil spot. I live my oil for the bread of the spot. I spot a really nice crime is coming to spot need for spot for the box and the spot for the supplication, but this will be the mice, but not the bottom on the bones. Tears and smiles, my brethren forever. My brethren for me for outer, and we're outer for the inner for the one. This is the time and place for the you can answer that for the compromise to the moving forward. We'll do the love and down for the dot for this will be the love for the deeds and do. This is down for the enough for the pursuing for the measure into the time for the distance circle the encircle for all the seasons and embrace that for the remembrance and the future with the longing for the who must do with the power with the love and that to be the under the final day and memory for the day to be a dream. I never the never they don't give me seen. Moving from the love of the thought for the be heaven acts you embrace yourself. The time that says you are a moment to breathe.
Those sleepwalkers and the white wise dogs, no.
Those sleepwalkers and the white wise dogs. Never was one who walked too far for mountains creep, but that's the everlasting sleepwalkers. You would see them speak without talkers. You would have them understanding the content, or they would think they understand the content, but they're standing over it for the never, the understanding of what you can find, understanding for the standing under, for the I am not recommending you to be under, I am fine that for the gathering not for the whole, from the whole for the being, for the soul, for the ass above, for the ass below, this for the low, for the being, for the needs, for the silence, for the info, for the world, for the woman who had a daughter, for the walking into the sleep, of this to be the veil garden, for the whom to find the youth, destroy the building up your life, for the rooms in mind, but I cannot kill you, for the standing it before the fervent self of me. I will have the echo for the faded, the love of you, for the dead, and the mocking crew, for the disability, one the one who can be the daughter, for the one you spoke from that and turn to terror about. I told you not to, I will try to warn you for. But you want to keep it doing not for the Western store, for the not for the consequences that what you want to give others. Even who you called your brother, even who you called your husband, even who you call your father, children. Call your father, this is never happening. How your children call your father, call your children. Wait a minute, I am never listening. This is the bait of the I've been minute for the cock and you gonna woke. This is the winter now kill your throat. This is the matter for the answer jitney. I can find it recommendedly. I can find a submission when I see one. Serving. Someone that's friendly when I can feel it. Someone that's present when I can reveal it. But these sleepwalkers walking through the daylight, hermits, one on a mountain, there two who live for the worshiping God. Maybe they didn't even know that place. Haste, face to the face of them, asking where to find that love and feeling to find kill that gracing eternity, but the salvation would lead you into eternity. He gave himself for you for eternity, but the God in that, but he never forgot about you for the love of one another, for the distance, the brother, for the Saturday, the bunny, set for the believing in what you can love, with the ever the broke, the find the bold, before the time to take the soul, for this to be given to him and you the Lord. And I can never find it, nothing on mine at home, but it must be to divide it, and not to be the cursed as a coward, and not to fight. What else is left but the rights? Rights, and this is what's left for the widow, for the son, for the distant, for the one, for the lonely house, and nothing little to the village, for the never had a one of its own. Place to lay his hat down, for the stare, for the fire, for only the child, for the staring at, maybe there with the mother, for the terror, with enough, for the thunder, for the shaking, for the recording, for the melodies and the men who coming from those with the silence and engulfing through the night. Who sat there by the fireside, spinning wool for the this to the bees, the ones who tell the terrible world, enough for the needs in the earth, for the widow spoken, one that weak upon the merciful eyes. When you realize with the power I am, for the man's weakness that you are, this is the falling, for the snow, for the heavy clouds, for the blowing wind, for the you needed that for the Nova. He made it for the easy suffer, for the knocking the doors. Wait for it, and I've been knocking too long. This is the Peter for the repeating my knuckles to the board, for the protecting that for the winter, for the this will be the cloud, for the body, for the merciful hands, and this will be the knocking on door, for the way, for the to the warm place, anger for the storm. This is for the slumber, this for the capture the sun, and little boy spirit for the place of the bed, for the kiss of that, for the eyes, for the quivering your lip, and then went back to death to find the heat and what they could find it raining. And containment enough of what you dream for. Oh, I dream of what you dreamt for. It will be spring after that winter, beautiful enough, and you can come near that soft with every intent for the heat, but it never stopped, and that for the brethren, you can find it what you prayed again for the night for the davening. Verily, I can say until you rain, mice and that for the rain for the mice, and this is wonder never nice, and this a rose and live and Mrs. Day for the company of the order of grave, and this is prayed again for the never the doubted for the live that I tell you but enough, and you can call me your dog for the laugh, and I heard the turn around and live to be the foolish enough for the cat. It's been written beyond that, for this wasn't safe, but this would be the hard to catch, this is hard to catch, divine and chase, and taste your mouse, and this is mouse and mouth, whatever the blouse, so this is prayer for the faith, the supplication, but never the butt, the bones. And never when the pastor cat and a wise dog, and that labor sleep walking in the fog, in a place where it was so simple to find a trace of anybody who had to never allergic for the simplicity of a pimple with the oil of spot. I lit my oil for the bread of the spot. I spotted where the guy's crime is coming. The spot me for the spot for the box and the spot for the supplication, but this would be the mice, but not the body, bone and bones. Tear and smile. My brethren forever. My brethren within me for outer, and we're outer for the inner for the formula. This is the time and the place for that you can answer that, for the compromise, for the moving forward, the love and down for the doubt, for this would be the love for the deeds and doing. This is down for the enough, for the pursuing, for the measure into the sign, for the distance circle, the encircle, for all the season, the embrace that, for the revelation of the future with the longing, for the who wants to do with the power, with the love, and that to be the under the final day, and memory of the day, of the dream. I find out whatever they give me, always for the love of the thought for the be.
She ain't never
be everything. Ask you, embrace yourself. The time that says you are you.
If I can tear that place apart with a smile, but it would be left with my heart for the remaining, and tear to the smile for the secret of the hidden things that I be the sun to the kind. So this would be the flow from every man. And after the hurt, for the cry, for the spirit, that I come to comfort it. If with the shell, I fill it with the light, for the ask me to share. I know it with the way, the truth, and I am for the wisdom. How I came to this frightening place and how the manner of things. Mighty hopes that for the books. Strange patterns and how thoughts. Past that for the dove in flight. Them words are composed that for desire by the song of their life. Who are they for the what are these conclusions and grievous? And make up these words for the text that this would be the quotes. Spirit that envelop my heart for this was never wrote. I for that which you see that run the depths and bleeds to fleeing from myself. For the voice in the morning from the days enchanting your littleness and who the day. This is you. I play that for desire, for the mock that for the lucky for the victory to days. I deed that rejoice. Pause written and pray for the moment for the scorn for the morals was coming. What world did I for the leave for this? The stillness of the night for the wisdom that came and I stood by my bed for the wiping of the tears and I should fill it with the light and the truth and I can stand. Not for the that for the heart for the youth for the how ignorant it is and how small it is. So swooping down for the prey for the go into your house and this would be the bruise of a household. Suffer not for the eagle for the child to rejoice. Fire life for the many books you can find strange to the patterns and the beautiful thoughts and shade of those spirits of where you come from for the worst that you leave and weave and bound and death and bonded to your neighbor, your brother from conclusions and grievous and your sisters and joys and sees that passing this scatter for the field. Spirit to be reaped by the future for the youth and you can hide that play for the desire for the who will open the door for the heart for the letter light and earth will window over the potent open mouth for the savior for the spirit and the body slavery for the witches of the world for the that to walk with you is the heart is that you that for the thinking of the world. That creature for the whom you see ignorant and small is the same who has come from God's side to learn pity through the sadness and the knowledge by the ways of darkness and why divine and wisdom for the hand and the burning of brow. This would be the war for the not terror for the walking through the perfection and go and not fear the thorns. Path that for them you not thought lawful through the corrupted blood. Save the corrupted blood. I am trying, but they put me on a trial. They will crucify me just like the one of no denial. And I speak to the beauty for the how should you speak for the self for that for the weather the speakers and that's agree for the injury for the hey be beauty is kind and gentle like the that for the half shy for the grown. Walking amongst is passionate. This is the night for the might for the dread and this is the tempest of the shaking that meet the need for the sky above us and maybe they're tired enough for that to find a shake. Tired enough of the weary you say for the this to be the hope for the reapers and what the with the soul for the this to be the what to do life for the veil for the veil for the with the gazing yourself in the mirror for the eternity you are. What you say, who I am for the blaming, who to me to be for the be a part of you for this to be the one I choose and risk it on and turning, pitching, tossing, chasing, lose again for the this to be the beginning for the earth to breathe, words that about for your loss of the ever, the force of the heart for the two, what you never saw, I guess.
Don't miss a moment.
Bad niggas always looking for peace. Bad niggas always looking for peace, but can't nobody else have none. That nigga always looking at me, but she ain't never the reason. If I could tear that place apart for the smile, for it would be left with my heart for the remaining, and tear the smile for the secret of the hidden things that not be the sons of the kind. But this would be the flow from every man. And not for the hurt, for the cry, for the spirit, for that I come to comfort it. If with the shell, I fill it with the light, for the ask me to share. I know it with the way, the truth, and I am for the wisdom. How I came to this frightening place and how the manner of things. Mighty hopes that for the books. Strange patterns and how thoughts. Past that for the dove in flight. Them words are composed of that for desire by the song of their life. For who are they for the what are these conclusions and grievous? And make up these words for the text that this would be the quotes. Spirit that envelop my heart for this was never wrote. I for that which you see that run the depths of these are fleeing from myself. For the voice in the morning from the days enchanting your littleness and who the day. This is you. I play that for desire for the mock that for the lucky for the victory to days. I deed that rejoice. Pause written and pray for the moment for the scorn for the morals was coming. What world did I for the leave for this? The stillness of the night for the wisdom that came and I stood by my bed for the wiping of the tears and I should fill it with the light and the truth and I can stand. Not for the that for the heart.
was me, there was none. Before there was me, there was some. Before there was mathematics in my shoulder. Minus that for the plus. Minus minus plus is the formula. Before there was me, there was none. Before there was me, there was some. Before there was mathematics in my shoulder. Minus that for the plus. Minus minus plus is the formula. How do you win, I suppose? You would need the formula. Power we're given, not for the ability to stay humble, for the heaven fills me with everything, for that I can have that desire. I am not for the poet, for the rapper, for the MC, for that I cannot refuse to receive. I for the poet, for the this, for the believe and give thy soul, for the gift, the great divine. I for the bunch of that, for the gift that you can be thirsty. One for the Jews, for the place it on the window, for the direction into the dark. I am not for the living, for the destiny, and tie my hands. Prevent that for so doing, for you can have a what's pursuing. One for the lesson, one for the learning, one for the churn, one for the burn, one for the love, you can be concerned. You should be the one knowing. Outside of the elements, and your people got the table of the elements, and your fable is your dinner is too far away from you, and you were stable. Find yourself in a comfortable position, you were a liar. For the birthplace, and you can never be aspired. You want to copy, plagiarize, you were a duplicator, a perpetrator, for you and never have love, for you are a masturbator. Never debating yourself. What do you believe in? You're only fooling yourself. I never met anyone more like you in my life, and never want to meet any more like you in my life. I suppose it wasn't in vain. I learned something from your dumb ass. It wasn't in vain. You got on my nerves, and let alone you got in my veins. The blood that ran through for the brain, for the heart, I couldn't even stand it. I would get dizzy sometime and get black out, I couldn't stand it. And this was the sit down. This is the sit down for you to be reprimanded, but I can never have a debrief. Briefly, you tried to have the D, and D between them, you can have a D from anybody from the nigga knees, and the Negroes, you can have those, and integrity, you didn't have none. And you didn't give a shit about it, but nigga, me, I couldn't have none. If there at least one place you can find yourself, go there, please, and don't ever come back until you do. I guess I'll shut up for one sentence or two. Maybe it was a sentence.